office, and then obviously a new build spec. And again, that's going to take time. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. It just takes time.
Yeah. As we're kind of thinking through what comes next on that front, as I mentioned, this tech center, the FAA tech center in my state, FAA recently selected QCon to receive a 7-year, $295 million contract to provide engineering support services. I wanted to ask, how will this additional tech support help the FAA achieve or exceed the NTSB DCA crash findings recommendations, in particular for the integration of ACAS-X technology in new and existing aircraft? I'm just trying to think through, how do we try to make sure we're doing this and try to think through this from a technical standpoint in a way that can smooth out how that transition might be able to occur.
Yeah, so again, early in my tenure, aside from going to the tech center, I sat with our next gen office specifically to talk about ACAS-X, what it can do for us and how we would ultimately implement that into the next build spec for next generation aircraft. The official who runs that office essentially said that, in his opinion, we failed to deliver a demand signal to the market, and so the market moved away from TCAS 1 to TCAS 2. And as TCAS 2 was adopted, there became very little interest, in the community or the aviation community and the manufacturing community to replace that investment with yet another technology so quickly. Don't get me wrong.
Welcome back to the channel, your no BS source for America First Truth and exposing government incompetence. Today we're reacting to this Senate Commerce Committee hearing where Democrat Senator Andy Kim from New Jersey is pressing the new FAA Administrator Brian Bedford on aviation safety improvements. On the surface, it sounds reasonable, talking about timelines for safety tech after tragic crashes. But as a red-blooded right-wing patriot who's watched the federal bureaucracy fail Americans time and time again, this hearing highlights everything wrong with big government agencies. Endless delays, excuses, decades-long timelines, and bureaucratic foot-dragging while American lives are at stake. Let me break this entire exchange down for you, give you my raw, unfiltered opinion, and explain why this is yet another example of why we need President Trump's leadership to drain the swamp and make government agencies actually work for the people again. Senator Andy Kim starts by asking about implementation timetables for long-term and short-term safety improvements. He wants to know if we're talking years or longer for full rollout. The FAA administrator is honest but blunt. Some advanced systems like ACAS-X could take a decade-long implementation. He mentions ADS-B can be brought into cockpits quicker and cheaper, but the gold standard collision avoidance tech is going to take serious time because of rulemaking, retrofitting aircraft, and industry adoption. Kim pushes back, saying, "Am I missing something here?" Basically questioning why there has to be a trade-off between quick fixes and long-term vision. The administrator explains that rulemaking alone takes 3 to 4 years, then infrastructure build-out, retrofits, and new aircraft specs. This is classic bureaucracy in action. Later they talk about the FAA Tech Center in New Jersey getting a big $295 million contract, and how lessons from the tragic DCA crash should be applied to other congested areas like the New York Metro. Here's my take as a patriot who puts American lives and American strength first.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on out here. I wanted to have an opportunity. I wanted to just get a sense. I mean, I know you were saying some of these have external dependencies, but just I'm trying to get a sense of just implementation timetables, what we can expect in terms of the full course of this. If we're able to be able to move forward on the legislative front, on the rulemaking front, what's our expectation where these changes will have been fully enacted? I mean, do you have a rough estimate? Are we talking about years or longer?
It depends. Earlier we were talking about perfection being the enemy of the good. If we want to get to ACAS-X, that's probably a decade-long implementation. It's not in the system today. MOPS aren't ready. Can get ready if that's the direction statutorily that the Congress decides to go. Meanwhile, we have the ability to bring ADS-B into the cockpit through electronic flight bags, flight deck connectivity, and a transceiver that would be less than $5,000 an aircraft. So I think we can get a lot of good situational awareness capabilities deployed quickly But if we're looking for things like ACAS X, I think that's a much, much longer timeline.
But in terms of how we're trying to operate, I mean, we will certainly want to be able to have implementation right away. I mean, I understand the longer term vision here, and you came out to the FAA Tech Center in New Jersey, where a lot of this can and has been happening, especially on ACAS X, et cetera. But I guess I'm just trying to get a sense from you as someone who's deep in this. I don't see how there needs to be a trade-off necessarily between being able to have some fixes in the short term while still be able to have that longer term vision. Am I missing something here?
Well, rulemaking is time consuming. And there's even with statutory regulation, we're still going to have to go through rulemaking. And that process is anywhere between 3 and 4 years in duration. From rulemaking, we'll then have to go into building out the infrastructure to actually apply it. So that's a retrofit process, and then obviously a new build spec. And again, that's going to take time. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. It just takes time.
Yeah. As we're kind of thinking through what comes next on that front, as I mentioned, this tech center, the FAA Tech Center in my state, FAA recently selected QCon to receive a 7-year, $295 million contract to provide engineering support services. I wanted to ask, how will this additional tech support help the FAA achieve or exceed the NTSB DCA crash findings recommendations, in particular for the integration of ACAS X technology in new and existing aircraft? I'm just trying to think through, how do we try to make sure we're doing this and try to think through this from a technical standpoint in a way that can smooth out how that transition might be able to occur.
Yeah, so again, early in my tenure, aside from going to the tech center, I sat with our next gen office specifically to talk about ACAS X, what it can do for us and how we would ultimately implement that into the next build spec for next generation aircraft. The official who runs that office essentially said that, in his opinion, we failed to deliver a demand signal to the market, and so the market moved away from TCAS 1 to TCAS 2. And as TCAS 2 was adopted, there became very little interest, in the community or the aviation community and the manufacturing community to replace that investment with yet another technology so quickly. Don't get me wrong, I think we're ready for it. I think it's time to move forward with it. I just don't want to oversell the ease with which we would start to see adoption within the NAS.
Okay. Last question here is just, certainly we've been very focused in on DCA and just the learning the lessons after the horrific tragedy. And absolutely, that needs to remain our priority. I would like to kind of get a sense from you, just how does that, in your mind, affect how you're approaching other highly congested areas? My state, very much in the New York metro area, you have a lot of different airports, you have a lot of vertical lift, there's a lot of talk about just where that goes next. How are you kind of grappling with these types of recommendations when we're looking at things more broadly, and especially in other congested areas?
Well, so you may recall during the 43-day government lapse, and over the progression of that lapse, naturally controllers weren't paid, and as they continued to go without pay, we saw a much higher call-off rate or sick call rate, and therefore staffing triggers proliferating through the NAS. And in that time, we saw safety recommendations come up from our AVS team to essentially telling us that they're seeing worrisome signs of potential, let's call it safety concerns in terms of how we were managing the NAS with fewer controllers in position. And so we implemented, Secretary Duffy and I moved forward with a plan to do a traffic capacity reduction. You may recall, we rolled that out at 4%, grew it to 6%, and ultimately would have gotten to 10% were it not for the termination of the funding lapse. That said, it did still raise concerns with me. It took a lot of effort for our team to actually get data from ASIAS and from our third-party data manager, MITRE. We need to do better in terms of delivering timely information to the safety professionals. What we did is we obviously created now a new safety office that's focused solely on this. It's no longer siloed between the 14 different business units, and we have given them advanced analytic tools Those tools have been used now to inform that there are, in fact, other hotspots in the country that we needed to take these mitigations with, and have done that through our general notice prohibiting the use of visual separation procedures between helicopters and aircraft in all airports within Class B, C, and terminal radar space.
Okay. Thank you, and I'll yield back.
This is exactly
you,
why Americans are fed up with Washington.
Thank you for coming on
the
out
FAA,
here. I wanted
like
to have
so
an
many federal
opportunity.
agencies,
I wanted to just get a
has
sense.
become
I know you were
bloated,
saying
slow,
some of these have
and
external
captured by endless red tape, unions, and special interests.
I'm
While
trying to
they
get a
study,
sense of just
hold hearings, and plan for
implementation
decades,
timetables,
pilots,
what we can
passengers,
expect
and
in
air
terms of
traffic
the full
controllers
course
are
of this.
dealing with
If
real-world
we're able
risks
to be able to
every
move
single
forward
day.
on the
We
legislative
saw what
front, on the
happened with the
rulemaking
horrific
front.
DCA incident.
What's our expectation
Safety
where,
should not be a
these
10-year
changes
research
will have
project.
been fully
President
enacted?
Trump's
I mean, do you have
approach
a
was
rough
always
estimate? Are we
different.
talking about
Cut the
years
bureaucracy,
or
demand
longer?
results, and put
depends.
accountability front and center.
Earlier we were
Under
talking
previous
about,
administrations,
perfection
we had
being the
near
enemy of the
misses,
good.
controller shortages,
If we
and
want to
outdated
get to
technology,
ACAS
while
X,
billions got
that's
spent on
probably a
DI
decade-long
nonsense,
implementation.
climate initiatives, and globalist
It's not in the
priorities
system
instead of
today.
core
Mops
safety
aren't
infrastructure.
ready, can
The
get
administrator
ready,
is right
if
that you
that's the
can't just
direction
snap your fingers
statutorily
and
that
upgrade the
Congress
entire national
decides to
airspace
go.
system. But that's the
Meanwhile,
problem
we
with
have the
government.
ability to bring
It
ADS-B
never moves
into the
fast enough
cockpit
when it
through
matters.
electronic flight bags,
Private industry
flight deck
innovates
connectivity,
rapidly.
and a
Elon Musk,
transceiver that
SpaceX,
would
and
be
other companies
less than
show what's
$5,000
possible
an
when you
aircraft.
cut
So
red
I think
tape
we can-
and focus
we can
on
get
results.
a lot of good
Yet the
situational
FAA
awareness
still takes
capabilities
years just
deployed
for
quickly.
rulemaking.
But if we're
Patriots.
looking for
This hearing
things
proves we
like
need
ACAS
major reform
X,
at the
I think that's
FAA.
a much
Faster
longer
certification
timeline.
processes
But in
for
terms
proven
of
safety
how we're trying to
technologies,
operate, I mean, we would
reducing
certainly
the
want to be able to
regulatory
have
burden on
implementation right
manufacturers
away. I
and
mean, I
airlines so they
understand
can
the
adopt
longer-term
upgrades quicker.
vision here, and, you came
Prioritizing
out to
American
the
air safety
FAA,
over every
tech
other
center in
global
New
or
Jersey,
woke
where,
agenda item.
a lot of this
Holding administrators
and
accountable
has been
with
happening,
real
especially on
deadlines and
ACAS X, et
consequences
cetera.
for failure.
But I guess I'm
Senator
just trying to
Kim
get a sense
wants
from
quick
you
action
as
in his
someone
state's
who's, deep in
congested
this,
airspace. I
don't
agree
see
with the
how
urgency, but the
there
solution
needs to be
isn't
a
more
trade-off
money thrown at
necessarily
the same
between
broken
being able
system.
to have some
It's
fixes
leadership
in
that
the short
demands
term
efficiency,
while still being
like Trump
able
did
to
when he
have that
pushed for major
longer-term vision. Am I
infrastructure
missing
and
something here?
regulatory reform.
Well,
The
rulemaking is
$295 million
time-consuming.
contract sounds nice,
And there's
but
no-
without
even with
slashing
statutory
bureaucracy,
regulation, we're
it's
still
just
going to
more
have to go
taxpayer
through
money
rulemaking.
disappearing into
That
the swamp.
process is
This is
anywhere
why we
between 3
fight
and
for
4 years
smaller,
in duration.
more effective
And
government.
rulemaking will then have to go
Americans deserve
into,
safe skies
building
without
out
waiting
the-
a decade for basic
the
collision
infrastructure
avoidance
to actually
upgrades.
apply it.
Our
So
airlines
that's a
carry
retrofit
millions of
process
passengers
and then
daily. This isn't
obviously a new
optional.
build spec.
Bottom line,
And
patriots.
again, that
The
just-
federal
it's gonna
bureaucracy
take
is
time.
too
I'm not gonna
slow,
sugarcoat it for
too
you. It just
expensive,
takes
and
time.
too incompetent to keep up with
As we're
modern
kind of
threats
thinking
and
through
technology.
what comes next on that front,
We
as
need
I
America
mentioned,
First
this tech
leadership
center, the
that
FAA
cuts
tech
waste,
center in
demands
my
results,
state,
and puts the
FAA
safety of
recently
American
selected,
citizens above
QCon to
everything
receive
else.
a 7-year,
We think,
$295
is the
million
FAA
contract
moving
to
too
provide
slow on
engineering
critical safety
support
tech?
services.
Should we
I
overhaul
wanted
these
to ask you,
agencies
how will
with
this
Trump-style
additional tech
efficiency?
support
Drop your thoughts in
help
the comments.
FAA achieve
I
or
read
exceed
every
the
single
NTSB
one. If you're
DCA
tired
crash
of
findings
government
recommendations,
incompetence endangering
in particular
Americans,
for the integration
smash that
of
like button,
ACAS X
subscribe for more
technology in
hard-hitting
new and
conservative
existing
commentary,
aircraft. I'm just trying to
and
think
share
through,
this with fellow
how do we try to
patriots.
make sure we're
Turn on
doing this
notifications so you
and
never
try
miss
to
a
think
video.
through this from a
God bless our
technical
pilots,
standpoint
air
in a way
traffic
that can
controllers,
smooth
and
out how
everyone
that
keeping our
transition might
skies
be able to
safe.
occur.
God bless
Yeah,
President
so,
Trump for
again,
fighting to
early in
restore
my
competent government.
tenure, aside from
And
going
God
to the
bless
tech
the
center, I
United
sat
States
with
of
our
America.
next-gen
I'll see you in the
office,
next one.
specifically to
Stay
talk about
vigilant,
ACAS
stay
X,
informed, and keep America first.
what it can